Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, it's Leslie and Cassie here with Power Women of the Trades podcast. They told me to pep it up, so I'm pepping it up for this intro. Today we have Rachel Sylvain with AGS HVAC Services out of Massachusetts, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we met you at AHR, which I feel like we've come a long ways in this because when we met you watched us in the live podcast thing, I think, right?
Wild.
And that was like our fourth time ever to podcast, and all four of those podcasts were that day. So like we've come a long ways in 9 months.
And it was like, let's try something new and do it in front of thousands of people when we've never done it before or really talk. I mean, Cassie has spoken at a lot of events, but I'm like, we really want to do this our very first time in front of all of these people. You know, it was so crazy. We were just talking about how crazy that whole thing was.
Yeah. So we got to say thank you for sticking around and liking us.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you. I was so inspired. I was sitting right up front like a fangirl because your first couple of guests were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Tool Wife was amazing. Mm-hmm. What was the lady's
Lori?
name? Yes, was amazing. I mean, all your guest lineup was it was like a wealth of information all at once. It was amazing.
That's really like the whole goal of this is to just share what we can and introduce people in the industry that might not know some of these other amazing ladies, to introduce you guys to each other so you can create your own networks. And so I love that. I love that you're fangirling. We needed a fangirl.
I know.
and so I felt like right in the crowd too with our blonde ponytails.
That's right.
I was
Yes.
Power Women of the Trades.
Yes. Blondies unite.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about what you do for the company and
how you got there?
Sure. So back in 2014, I was working as a CNA and my patient had passed away. My dad had just started the company with his business partner, John, and I was getting ready to go to nursing school in September of that year. And my daughter was 7, and I said, oh, well, I'm going to take the summer off. And during that summer, Dad started to pick up. It was like maybe his second year in business. And I said, oh, why don't you let me come and answer some emails and answer the phone? At the time, it was just, him and John, a chuck in a truck. And so he didn't want to hire me. And he was like, no, I have a business partner. I don't need to pay you to answer the phone. And I was like, okay. So about a month later, he was like, okay, yes, I do need some help answering, service was coming in, answering emails. And so that was the summer, and we were working out of his bedroom. To that point, we started to grow, and I was like, we need a shop. Like, we need some, we got to have like a home base. So I found a warehouse right in town. Actually, we're still here to this day. It was just perfect, had a loading dock. That was 2014. 2015, my brother, Mike Jr., decided to come along. He worked for a really big refrigeration company, maybe 3 years out of high school. My brother came along, and I would say in about 2016, 2 years later, I was just kind of at that point answering phones and doing a lot of admin stuff. We started to grow. So of course, as you ladies know, as you grow, you wear multiple hats. So then from there, I started doing the commercial quoting, ordering all the parts, rooftop replacements, answering the phone, dispatching, doing the invoicing, wearing every hat possible. So that was 15, 16, our territory manager came in and she was like, hey, Bryant has this program called Bryant Women in HVAC. And, I know you handle the day-to-day here, Rach, and I think it would be good for you. At the time, I never thought that women were in leadership roles in the trade, right? I'm in this little farm town in a warehouse by myself, just answering the phone. Everybody that I'm dealing with at the supply house to delivery drivers, I'm dealing with men all the time. And so I always thought, well, one day if me and Mike take this over, in order to gain respect of my technicians or get into the trade, I honestly thought I was going to have to go into the trade, go to trade school, get my contracting license. But that changed in 2016 when I went to my first women's event. And Brian hosts this, I think it was their second year. We went down to Florida, and the keynote speaker was Charlene Ierner from Ierner's Heating and Cooling in Lutz, Florida. Big blonde ponytail, big high heel shoes. And I was like, oh, we can do it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It gives me goosebumps.
Yes.
Like she is a solo by herself, like no co-owners, just killing the industry. And so from there I said, okay, like I can do this. And the breakout sessions really helped me figure out my fingerprint on the business. And as I went in the next couple of years, it helped me grow the business, because at the time, Dad is very old school. So we didn't have a website, and we didn't really have anything.
Still on pen and paper, probably.
Yes, we used WinTAC as our software. We didn't have a website. We didn't measure our data or our numbers or anything like that. And it was these breakout sessions where some women would be like, oh, well, you got to know your numbers. And I'm like, oh my God,
what's a number?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's a number? I don't, you get your profit and loss statement. You're like, I don't know how to read this.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, thanks. That bottom number looks great. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go in business for another year. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like, from there on is really where I started to say, okay, I can do this in a leadership role. Mm-hmm. If I can build this business, I can, provide value to my customers and to my employees by leadership.
I love that.
Awesome.
And it's, I'm not in HVAC, so I don't know. So Bryant does this. Are you familiar with it, Cassie?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I think that's amazing that you had that ability to see that.
Well, right. And just because of representation that
Mm-hmm.
she hadn't seen before on a trip, that they had created that.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly, like, I talk about this all the time, but like, that's why we wanted to start this podcast. And that's why we wanted to help, because there are so many people that she's not in HVAC, so she might not have ever heard of that. But people need to see that women can do big work in our space and are doing it on a daily basis, but no one was showcasing it, or not. Let me back up. Not many people were showcasing it. So only a small portion of our industry was seeing it.
Yeah.
Like I was a carrier distributor for a long time, but I didn't sell Bryant, so I wasn't allowed to go the trip.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting?
I forget y'all have gangs in HVAC.
Yeah.
And they have to stay.
We do have gangs, but Carrier and Bryant are the same. That's even funnier though. But anyways,
okay.
we have gangs in HVAC.
It's like, I don't know. I don't know.
So
it just creates it, like you said, Cassie, it's the network, it's the friendships you make, it's what's working with her business that could be working with mine. It's the
I like that.
Sharing of best practices. So that's out of everything, because in 2020 when we had to navigate COVID, I had like a core group of women, and we were on a Zoom text message group every week trying to navigate
what to do
in and out of homes and how we were going to survive that.
Yeah.
That is so
and you
important.
had to, it's so important to have that network to be able to do those things, because you get so like lost in the sauce, and you get lost and you're not really sure what to do and if you can survive this. And sometimes you just need someone to tell you can survive it. Mm-hmm. Like, you can, but they just need to remind me that I can survive this, and having, another woman doing that's just It's so important. So important.
Well, I want to talk about how you were saying, and I don't know if we were recording yet when you said this. So you had been working with your dad, but it was last year you bought into the business, and how, like, tell us what led you there. Was there an exit in mind? Like, going into that decision, because that's a big decision, and it's a big decision with family. So you have the family dynamic. What kind of led up to that?
So I just running the operations, Dad and John, really anything that happened with the business, they were always, well, we got to ask Rod, what does she think? So I was already playing that role. For me, it was like, okay, I want the title.
Yeah.
I wanted to, sit at the table with them and be able to make the executive decisions. And so last year I was able to buy my way in and say, hey, I can do this. Again, like you said, Leslie, that's a big conversation with my husband, who's not in the business, who's not in the trade, a conversation with my brother. Right.
Oh, so that's another element there, because did the brother buy in? Was there any weirdness?
So Mike, right. And so I'm lucky to where I have a very supportive younger brother. And so with Mike just being 9 years behind, just getting married, having a baby, he's on his way there.
Right.
He absolutely is. And he was extremely supportive, but it was important for me to have his support because he's my future,
Yeah.
Look at me get emotional.
This is the third episode somebody has cried today. Yeah.
We're bringing out all the emotions.
We're always in our feelings over here. Yes. So we love it. Yeah.
So what, you bought into, so you buy into the company?
And can I say, I freaking love that for you because there's so many layers to that conversation, and then coming from a daughter to a dad, and then you have the financial element, but just like, kudos to you, because that took a lot of courage to have that conversation, and then
to be able to do it.
Now you've got a piece of the pie, right? Yeah. Like, you already know. You already know what's going on in the industry. You're setting yourself up for success. You started out, hey, Dad, I want to answer the phone, to now you've bought in, right? Mm-hmm. You have a financial stake over the future of this company and for yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't really care how people get to the ownership piece of it, but so many people want to be like, they were just handed this or whatever. But when you get to buy into it and you get to put your own money in, and you get to really no, that's yours. No one gets to take that away from you. That's awesome.
That again was important for me, because I guess everyone assumed, oh, Daddy's girl, she's in that position. But my dad is he's not the type to just give something that's not earned. Right. He's very tough. Yeah. And so he holds the bar really high, especially he's been in the trade for over 35 years. So no matter what we do, even as a little girl, no matter what he did in teaching me, coaching me through softball, painting, it was, we're going to do it the right way, and so him coaching me through this, I think, he knew.
I have a vision of your dad, what he looks like, because
we needed a picture of Dad.
I have a vision of what he looks like because of just your accent tells us a lot, right? And the Boston guy, right? I just feel like he's like the Boston guy, and he's like, no shit.
Yep.
Yep.
Do you work with him daily on a day-to-day basis? Is he in the office with you?
So now he is. He's mostly just sales. Mike Jr. runs the installation department, and then we have Joshua, who's been with us for about 6 years, and he's my service manager. And Dad is just kind of in and out, does his sales, and he goes home. On Fridays, he's on the motorcycle.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's awesome. So, that's good for him. Good.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review on Apple. And make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.